Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel, Say What's Real TV. This review is for Hulu's Reasonable Doubt. This is Season 2, Episode 9, Who You With? So we open up the episode with Sally. She is in her bedroom getting drunk as a skunk, in her feelings, listening to a broadcast talking about the court case. And basically they were saying that the public opinion was swaying more towards Chanel's side until Sally got her behind up on the stand and gave that raggedy behind testimony. Now they are back supporting JT, loving their favorite athlete, and his jerseys are now flying off the shelf because of her. So Chris, he goes in the bedroom and he asks her, does she want to talk about it? And she's still spewing out this attitude talking about, oh, so now you want to talk? And I'm like, Sally, girl, relax on the attitude because you're lucky he's still even in the house at all and has yet to file for a divorce. And I'm wondering, what is Chris's end game? Like, this trial has been going on for months and he's been on the sofa. So what is he waiting for? I mean, it is time for them to have the hard conversation about what they're going to do with this marriage and how they're going to move forward. But maybe he's waiting for the trial to be over with. But anyway, after she gives the little attitude, he tells her, listen, you're still my wife and the mother of my kids. So if something is going wrong besides what we got going on, yes, I want to know about it. And he tells her that he still cares. Notice he doesn't say, I still love you. She says, I don't believe you. So Sally, she decides to sashay her drunk tail up to him and he says, but I'm also still mad. She says she doesn't believe that and she proceeds to show him what that mouth do. And Chris, still being a man with needs, you know, he's turned on or whatever, so he slightly and politely turns her around and puts her on her tiptoes real quick and give her a quick 1-2. So after Chris quickly got that pressure up off his chest, and I do mean quickly, Sally thought everything was all good and gravy, so she thought she was getting ready to, you know, give him a little kiss or two here or there. Chris gave her that look like, no ma'am, no ma'am. Don't get it twisted. And he got his little shirt and walked off, leaving her with that little drunk, wet coochie to go right back on the bed where he found her at. So over there with Jax and Lewis, she tells him about the vape pen she found in Spencer's room, and she's a little upset about it and wants to snatch Spencer up out that bed, but she says she's not going to go too hard on him yet because they still don't know about Tony's baby yet. So Lewis fixes his mouth to ask Jax, when are we going to tell the kids about the baby? Me and Jax both were like, no sir, this is your show. You let me know when you're ready. I'll be there. So once again, Lewis trying to avoid confrontation, hoping that Jax will put that S on her chest and take the lead in the conversation with the kids. No, Lewis, you're going to have to take accountability for the mistake that you made in talking with these kids, saying that you are not the perfect parent the way you portray yourself to be. So Lewis thinks that it'll be better to mention it to the kids after the baby is born, then that way they can meet their baby brother at that particular time. And just like those DNA results when he didn't want to mention anything to Jax until he actually got the results, which was still a lie in itself. And I get the feeling he's hoping that something goes wrong to where this baby doesn't see the light of day. That way he doesn't have to mention anything to the kids and he still looks like the perfect hero in their eyes. And I don't think we forgot about that little statement he made about wishing the baby would go away and how he didn't want it. So Jax was like, okay, So she switches the topic and she asks him about this launch that he has going on at work. And we hear about this big launch every episode. And side note, did anybody else notice that Lewis wasn't wearing the bandage that was wrapped around his wrist anymore? And we never found out why he had it on there in the first place. But anyway, one of their coders quit and left them in a pickle. And this is when we find out that Lewis has an assistant and he suggested that she be promoted and her name is Lena. Apparently she's really good at what she does. Jax knows who she is and seems to love her. I'm guessing when we get season 3, we're going to get more into Lewis actually going to work and finding out who this Lena is. Jax, she starts talking about the trial. Lewis wants to know how she's actually doing. She says that her medication seems to be working fine. Not being first chair is helping out, but you know, she's still worried about Chanel. And after puffing on Spencer's flavored vape pen, they figure they're going to have to talk to him quick, fast, and in a hurry. So the next day, we see Corey walking in with that BDE looking fine as I don't know what. And he's on the phone with Jax, and he's telling her that Daniel was able to get Ebony. He spoke with her for about an hour. She's willing to testify, but she has has one condition. And in the next scene, we see what that was, and she wanted to talk to Chanel down to the county jail. So basically what they were trying to do is establish a pattern that JT had with abuse in his relationships, and they wanted Ebony to get her side of the story out to Chanel. And Chanel had an attitude from the gate saying, what are you doing here? Like, my life shouldn't depend on this alcoholic pill popping no good baby mama. Ebony's over there like, look, there's a lot you don't know about me. I've been clean for like 3 years. And Chanel didn't give a damn. She's like, and and she asked Ebony, why haven't I heard from you all this time? Like, what are you looking for, attention or a paycheck? And Ebony had to let her know, because JT is unalived and now I can get to you without him messing up my life. So Jax and Corey, they leave the two of them to talk in private, and Chanel tells her, look, I know JT was a terrible person, but he also said you were selfish and a terrible mother, and given the way you abandoned Natasha, two things can be true. So Ebony, she gets into her story, and she lets Chanel know when she got pregnant with Natasha, that's when the abuse from JT started, because he wanted her to get rid of her baby, and when she didn't, he started resenting her. Now, we also know that JT gave Tony a check to terminate her pregnancy, and Tony didn't do it. So Ebony, she goes into detail about how sick she thought it was to be getting punched in her face, but expected to give JT something for his pain. So in this moment, Chanel has to know that Ebony is telling the truth, because we saw a whole flashback when she was over there frolicking around with Adrian, and JT thought she had left him, so he beat her behind, and we saw her face all bruised up, and she's in pain and crying, but over there putting a wet rag all over his body, waiting for his pain medication to kick in. So Ebony tells her that she used to give JT all these different kind of pain medications so he can play well in the game, and whatever was left over, she would inject herself with it. And basically that's how she became addicted to drugs. So with all of that going on, Ebony says that JT made her incapable of being a good mother and had her believing she was born that way. So you could tell Chanel softened up a bit, because she knows this stuff to be true because she's lived it herself. Basically, Ebony, she wants Natasha to know the truth. Like, she wasn't intentionally trying to be a bad mother. There were other things going on, and she wants Chanel to be the one to tell her. So apparently Chanel agreed to talk to Natasha about her mom, because Ebony comes out talking to Jax and Corey and says she will testify. Of course, they're happy about it. It's the weekend, but Corey tells her, we need you to come in so we can prep you for court. So later on, Jax is at home. She goes into her bedroom, and under the bed, she pulls out this manila folder that has Damon's case file in it. Like, why is it under the bed, Jax? I'm confused with that. Now, mind you, this was back when she was just a public defender and she lost the case. But she's flipping through the file, and she hears his voice in her mind saying he's never had anybody fight for him the way that she has. But then you also hear Chanel's voice telling her that she's won cases that nobody thought she could win. So then Lewis, he's knocking on the door, which I don't know why he's knocking on his own bedroom door. I guess she locked it or something. But he's wanting to know if she's ready to go talk to Spencer about this vape pen. And she's quickly trying to hurry up and put the manila folder back, like she's being very secretive. And she barely gets it back up under the bed the way she had it the first time, which makes me think that Lewis will eventually find this folder and probably get into his feelings, because it is Damon's folder. So they go in there to talk to Spencer about him vaping. He admits that the pen belongs to him. They put him on punishment, no video games, no phone. They want him to stop hanging around these kids because they're a bad influence. He says that they were doing way worse stuff than he was doing. All he does is vape. And he says he doesn't see that as a big deal. They tell him that smoking is a big deal. What are you talking about? And he says, well, mom does it. And she was like, excuse me? Like, I'm not 15. I'm grown. Do as I say, not as I do. Now, for some odd reason, Lewis thought this was funny that he called his mom out. Now, we do know that Jack smokes cigarettes, but don't Lewis and Jack smoke weed? Or is he only talking about the cigarette smoking? But anyway, they get outside of Spencer's room, and Lewis is having a real good kiki about it, teasing her, saying it was like Jadakiss versus Dip set up in that piece. And Jack, she basically shut him down and wiped that smile up off his face and told him just wait until he finds out about that baby news, Cameron. Oh boy. So the next day we see them prepping Ebony for court, and we're finding out more things about JT. He started abusing her when she got pregnant, and it just became a regular occurrence. We found out that he used to lock her and Natasha up in the guest house while he entertained other women, some being her friends, which they really weren't her friends, and some being the wives and girlfriends of his teammates, which is interesting. So while continuing to prep Ebony, we find out that even though JT did not want Natasha, Mavis did, and him being low-key petty the way he is, he didn't want her to have her, so he took her through this custody battle that she could not afford. And she was denied visitation because at this point, she is addicted to these pain pills. And she had to go into rehab, and she couldn't stay in rehab because they took her off the medical insurance. And of course, she couldn't afford that, so she would then just remain an addict. And my girl Candy, she did a good job in that scene. She had the waterworks going and everything. I see you, Candy. Keep her back, birds, girl. Crystal, she takes Ebony out for some fresh air. She did a great job. Lewis and Jack says her story is sad, but it's going to be very powerful. And side note, Corey is looking real good in his street clothes. It just makes absolutely no sense to be that fine. So in the next scene, we see Mavis pulling up on Ebony. And she's like, you're not going to talk to Natasha or testify. Ebony says, how did you even find me? He says, I'm Jamarian Tucker's mother. I align myself with the right people. Now, who could have possibly told Mavis all about Ebony testifying? So Mavis tells her she's going to honor her son's wishes by keeping Ebony quiet. Ebony says she's been quiet long enough. It's time for the world to know the truth about JT. So Mavis reminds her she has this long laundry list of things that Ebony has done under the influence, and Ebony says she didn't give a damn. And at this point, it is what it is. Then Mavis, she brings up Natasha finding out about all of these things. And I'm like, okay, maybe she had to do some strange things for some change. So what? She had a little sex or something, maybe a little porn here and there. We don't know. But if Natasha was being locked in guest bedrooms, I'm quite sure she's been exposed to who her daddy really is. Because we know kids are not slow. They're not dumb. They see things and know things. And Mavis reminds her, since she's supposed to be sober, there's no drugs that will be able to numb her shame. So Mavis, she walks off, and all of a sudden, Ebony is looking defeated. So in the next scene, we see that Daniel finds Ebony in the parking lot before it's time for her to testify, and she's out of it. She's been drinking and she's been popping pills. And she says that she was nervous, so they call 911. So they get Ebony to the hospital, and now she's in stable condition. But the doctor does tell Corey they got her there just in time because the combination of the alcohol and the pills could have been very lethal. So she's apologizing to Corey, and Corey was like, we'll get your testimony postponed. And she says, no, I can't do it at all. Like, I've done things that I don't want anybody to know. I mean, at this point, we, the audience, we want to know, what the hell have you done, Ebony, that nobody can find out about? Now, outside of you unaliving a person, then I could see that. But girl, we needs to know. So she tells Corey if she goes into that courtroom, they're going to do some digging, and she could possibly lose her job, any chance of getting back with Natasha, and she feels like her stepping away would be the best thing for everybody's safety. Safety being the key word for Corey. Asked Ebony, did somebody get to you? So Jax goes to see Chanel to let her know that Ebony will no longer be testifying, and she figures out that Mavis got to her. And she says that when she gets on the stand, that she's going to put an end to all of this, and she's known for a while she was going to have to do it. Jax asks her, are you really ready for this? And are there any landmines I need to know about? Chanel claims she understands that it's going to be crucial, and it's F Mavis. So when Jax leaves from seeing Chanel, she tries to smoke a cigarette, and she thinks about what Spencer said to her, and she puts it out. I'm like, hey, whatever it takes for you to stop smoking them. So we head over there to Lucy's house, and she's panicking about juror number 11 and on the phone with Henry. When she gets off the phone, her son John, he's packing up for like 3 days, and he's super excited about going with his dad. Of course, she's nervous and panicking about that and telling him, make sure you send me pictures, make sure you text me, this and that and the other. And John has to basically tell her to relax. This is my dad. This is not some crazy person. Now, I always say that kids see things, they know things, they're not that slow. But how is it that John doesn't know that his dad is off the chain the way Lucy makes it seem? She has to call the prison to make sure he's there. She's running from city to city, to state, to job, and John has absolutely no clue that Peter is a stalker and has done things to his mom. even though we don't even know what he's actually done. But anyway, she plays it off and sends him out of the room so she can slip this air tag in his jacket pocket before sending him off with his dad. So in the next scene, we see Corey and Lucy appear before the judge because Corey is trying to get juror number 11 dismissed and says he has photo evidence that that juror was seen talking to a publisher who had direct contacts to their notes. Now, this late in the game in this trial, the judge really didn't want to do it. She let it be known there were no more alternates, and she had to do what was right and dismiss juror number 11. Now, although Lucy needed juror number 11, she didn't seem that upset about it because her main concern was where in the hell was John and Peter. So she goes to her phone and finds out where their location is, and they were at Dave & Buster's like John said they were going, so she seemed a little relieved after that. So Naima, she goes in to talk to her big brother, and he's complaining about being on a punishment and having his privileges taken away. And she lets it be known that they said that you couldn't use your phone, but they didn't say anything about you using mine. So she basically told him to have them send the rehearsal taping to her phone, and that's how he can watch it. So he thanks her and tells her she's a real one, and she walks out feeling pretty good about herself. Now, I don't know if Naima was up to something or expecting something later, but I thought it was a good gesture for her to try to get closer to her brother because most siblings do stick together like that. Now, we get this random scene with Autumn. Now, a while back, we do remember Autumn having a conversation with Jax, mentioning that she was going through the whole IVF process. So we see her having a checkup, and Sally is coming there to support her. Now, mind you, Autumn has a wife named Kendall. We have gone damn near 2 seasons, 1 more episode left, and we have yet to see what Kendall looks like. At this point, just make Autumn a single woman, okay? But on the serious tip, it was sad because the doctor did tell Autumn that she could not find a heartbeat, and she was kind of devastated because now she is no longer pregnant. The doctor does let her know that they have 1 embryo left, so there's still hope. And Autumn was like, well, if that doesn't work, does this mean I have to start the whole IVF process again? And the doctor confirmed that would be a yes. So Autumn tells Sally to keep it between the 2 of them because Chanel and Jax had enough on their plate. And Sally was like, oh my God, another secret. So Autumn says, what is that supposed to mean? And she says, don't worry about it. This stays between us. One thing about it, Sally definitely will keep a secret. So in the next scene, they're trying to prep Chanel to take the stand. Now, Jax had already warned her that things were going to be crucial and hard, and she needed to be ready. She starts taking the questions personal as if Jax is asking for her damn self and not something Lucy will say. Jax had to put her in her place and let her know, look, I'm just testing you because these are Lucy's tactics. They're going to paint you to be the lying gold digger. So you need to leave that insecure young lady back in high school and act like the woman who's endured hell and still standing. So over at the DA's office, we see Lucy and Mike talking, and Lucy is a little rattled because she knows that it's not looking too good, and he told her not to underestimate Jax and Corey. And she says, look, I can't lose this case, and he suggested to her that they offer a plea deal. So Corey, he takes the news to Jax, says that they are offering a plea deal, voluntary manslaughter, 10 years with good behavior. And Jax automatically knew that this was Mike's doing and not Lucy's. So Jax and Corey both say that they're worried about Chanel testifying, and after the day they had with prepping her, she may just be ready to take a plea. So Corey and Jax, they go see Chanel and tell her what the DA is offering. Manslaughter, 10 years, and they may be able to get her to do as little as 3 years. Chanel wants to know why do they have to do all of that because she thought they were doing well. And Jax had to let her know that jury trials can be a gamble and that her testimony will determine how this is going to end. And Chanel says, oh, you don't think I can do it? So Jax tells her she thinks that she's hiding something if she thinks that the jurors just might think it as well. So Chanel, she weighs her pros and cons. The pros being this would finally be over. Cons would be she would be broke, unable to get a job, and she would lose her kids. Corey, he felt some kind of way, and he told her, look, we promised we were going to get you out of this, so we're not going to back down on that promise. Right, Jax? Jax looked at him like she thought he was crazy. So the 2 of them, they step outside and have a few words, and he says, look, I'm just taking a page out of your book. I'm considering the client. Jax called him out like, I think you're basically doing this for Isabella. Now, this is just a side note. Remember in episode 1 of this season, Chanel was ready and willing to take a plea deal because she didn't want to take the kids through a lengthy trial. So what happened to that? What is the difference now?
What about a plea deal or something? If that's what you want to do, I can talk to the DA's office and see what your options are. If the deal isn't crazy, I'll take it.
So in the next scene, we see Jax meeting up with Autumn, and she's bringing her flowers because Kendall called and told Jax what happened with the baby situation. So they sit down and they start talking about Sally and Chanel. Autumn is apologizing, saying she hasn't had time to go and see Chanel because she has had a lot going on. So Jax is asking her about Sally because she seems a little short and stressed lately. And she says that the attachment that Sally and Chanel has seems to be a bit unhealthy because Sally acts like this is her trial and she's the one going through it. So the two of them say how they will continue to check on Sally and Chanel and joke about how they've been doing it since high school, just the same-ish, different decade. So in the next scene, we see Sally finally making it down to the county jail visiting her cousin. Sally tells her that she's tried at least 3 times in a week's period and she's been blocked from the visitation, and Chanel tells her she has to testify and she's been trying to focus. So Sally then asks her, did she tell Jax the truth? And Chanel said no, because I had a moment of weakness and I'm going to stick to the original plan. So child, these two get into this little heated argument. And of course, Chanel is so quick to anger every little thing. She is lashing out at somebody. So Sally only asked her, does she think Jax can win this case without knowing the truth? Chanel says, well, are you worried about what you want or what Jax wants? So Sally tells her what she wants is not to be burdened with the truth. So Chanel asks her, did she say anything, and accuses her, Autumn, and Jax of sitting around drinking and talking noise about her. Sally called her paranoid and told her that this secret is driving both of them crazy, how it's ruining her life, her marriage, and her friendships. So Chanel tells her, do you think that I like being locked up in here for something that I didn't do? So who did it, Chanel? Tell us. Set yourself free. We are tired of waiting. So Chanel fixes her lips to tell Sally that she is selfish. So Sally, she goes off like, selfish? Like, girl, I lost my house because of you when you decided to run off with your little boyfriend and then tell me about it. My husband is not even talking to me because I'm running around protecting your ass. And you're sitting here in my face telling me I'm selfish? Okay, I'm gonna show you better than I can tell you. I told her from now on she's on her own. I'm like, ooh, child. So now it's time for Chanel to take the stand. She comes in the little conference room to talk to Jax and Corey, and she tells Jax that she wants Corey to be the one to question her on the stand. So, of course, Jax is in her feelings, like going off like, you come with this BS at the last minute. Like, where's all this coming from? Chanel tells her that she's been doubting her since the 10th grade. And Jax was like, wait a minute, you mean to tell me you doing all this for something that happened back in high school? Chanel says, no, I want to be supported by someone who thinks that I can win, and not somebody who is just willing to take a plea deal. And Corey had to let her know, look, initially both of us agreed that you should take the deal. But Chanel just seems to think that fat meat is not greasy because she thinks she's just going to get up there and coast with Corey, not really understanding why Jax was trying to show her Lucy's tactics ahead of time. So she gets on the stand and she starts describing different things in the marriage. How one time she had to go back home and get his ticket because he blamed her for leaving it in the first place. When she gets back to the game, he has another female sitting there in her seat, and she said she'd rather have a broken heart than a broken jaw. So she explains the day that she decided to leave. She picked the day he wouldn't be home. He comes there unexpectedly and they get into it. She tells him she's going to leave with the kids. Next thing you know, he's choking her out. He's too strong for her to get him off of her, but she claims she picked up the closest thing to her and hit him with it. She told Corey that this was the first time that he had ever choked her, so he wanted to know, besides the choking, why was this time so different? She said it was in his eyes, they were cold, and he told her he should have done this a long time ago. So Lucy gets up there to question Chanel, and she does exactly what Jax said she would do. She twisted up Chanel's words and made her fold like a lawn chair. At one point, Chanel said, I would never in a million years intentionally try to provoke JT. And Corey and Jax looked at each other like, oh my God. So Lucy asked her the question of the day, which is, at what point did you hit JT over the back of the head? And Chanel said when he walked away. So Lucy had to remind her of the police report where she made a statement saying that she hit JT while he was choking her. Now she doesn't know what to say, and it hit her like a ton of bricks, exactly what Jax was trying to show her, talking about Lucy is doing exactly what JT did and twisting up her words. No, girl, you just didn't keep up with your lies good enough. That's it, and that's all. What we do know, as you said earlier in the episode, two things can be true at the same time. He was hit over the back of the head while you were being choked, but you also finished him off, and that's the story I'm sticking with. So Chanel, she ends up pulling a Sally and an Adrian, and she blurts out how he was going to unalive her. And let me just say, Emma Yahtzee was acting her behind off and didn't even have to say a word. Just every time the camera panned over to her, you can see the anxiety, the panic, just rushing through her body, just like wanting to jump in and help, but really couldn't do a damn thing about it. Corey, he gets up there, tries to calm Chanel down and get the court back settled down, and he says, can you tell the court why you hit Mr. Tucker over the back of the head as he walked away? And Chanel says that she was scared that JT would come back and finish what he started. Sorry, Chanel, but that alone is not self-defense. Corey lies and says that is completely understandable, but everybody else in the courtroom knew that was a bunch of BS. So after Chanel gets off the stand, her and Jax, they're in the conference room, and she says to her, thank you for not saying I told you so. Jax just laughed it off like, girl, I'm just trying to be different. So Corey, he comes in and he lets it be known that the plea deal is no longer on the table. Chanel kind of figured that and wants to know what happens now. Jax basically tells her it's above them now. Only the 12 jurors and God knows. So later we go over there to Lucy's house where Peter is bringing John back home from their little 3-day excursion, and she's thanking him because she says it meant a lot to their son. He said, oh no, thank you. And he puts the air tag back in her hand and he walks off. Now, of course, she's standing there looking crazy because she thought she was being smarter than your average bear, but I guess he was a little smarter. Mind you, I noticed Peter is still wearing his wedding ring. Now, I'm wondering, when are we going to actually see what the hell is going on between Lucy and Peter? Because when we first were introduced to this Peter Thompson, she was calling the jail like she was literally terrified. She was going to get a new number and all of that. This lady has gone from state to state, job to job, like she can't sleep at night, this and that and the other. But now she's able to stand face to face with him and not blink an eye. So over there at the law firm, Corey, he stops Jax and basically was trying to ask her, did she want to do the closing? And she was like, no, sir, I'm good. You got it. And it's funny how the tables turned, because when she was offering to look over his opening statements, he told her no ma'am. But he told Jax that what happened in court today was basically his fault because they should have taken the deal. He just really wanted Chanel to win. Jax tells Corey good luck on your closing, and she leaves and walks out, and she sees Crystal and Daniel chalking it up at the table. So she finds out what they're doing. Daniel is helping Crystal study for her LSAT because she didn't do well on the practice exam, and Jax took the time out to sit down to actually help her, and I thought that was a great thing for her to do. So Jack, she goes in to talk to Spencer and basically was talking to him about her smoking and how she's trying to limit doing it, and addiction runs on her side of the family, and she just doesn't want him to pick up that habit because it's going to be hard for him to quit. And he was like, yeah, I understand, but it won't be today, Mom. And, they just laugh it off or whatever, and she gives them this hug like, you're still my baby. And all the while Naima is standing in the doorway, and it was given like, oh, well, what about me type thing. Now, mind you, in a previous episode, when they forgot that she had this program to go to after school, Spencer told her they don't really give a damn about you. And she was like, I know, right? So I feel like she is feeling a little left out a lot of times. And wait till she finds out about this damn baby. So we go back over there to the law firm, and Corey gets a collect phone call from Isabella Torres, and she's basically telling him, look, I've been following your case and it looks like it's not going too well. And he's trying to tell her, look, I'm garnering more attention. I'm going to get more eyes on your case. And she's basically saying, look, you're just getting my hopes up just to be let down, and it just feels like I'm getting convicted all over again. And she ends up telling Corey that he's fired. So pretty much Corey has been taking L's all day long. So later on over there with Jackson Lewis, he's getting in late because of traffic. So he sits down with Jackson. She's telling him that she had a conversation with Spencer about her smoking and basically how she took accountability for it. And she said that she felt like hiding it from him has sent the wrong message, and it just had her going deeper and deeper down this rabbit hole. And all of a sudden, she has this epiphany, and she tells Lewis, look, I gotta go. So we go over there to Sally's real quick, and she's sitting there pouring her some wine, and Chris is putting his jacket on, getting ready to leave, and she asks him, are you coming home tonight? And he says, unfortunately, yes. So where the hell is Chris going this time of the night? So Lewis, he gets a phone call letting him know that Tony is apparently going into labor, and he's shocked because he says she's only 29 weeks, which means some time must have passed somewhere along the line. So he hangs up, he calls Mama Lou so she can get the kids for him. So in the last scene of the episode, we see that Jax went to see Chanel. She comes in and Chanel is like, what is wrong? Of course, we fade to black and Jax says, I know who unalived JT. And that's where the episode ends. Woo, child. Who do you guys think Jax is talking about? Is it Chanel, Natasha, Mavis, Sally, Adrian, Ebony? Inquiring minds want to know. Drop down in the comments. Let me know what your thoughts, theories, or predictions are. And as always, you guys, thanks for all of the support. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.